Portable gaming devices are getting way more popular these days. Many people are even buying them instead of regular consoles. I mean, why tie yourself down to one spot when you can game literally anywhere, right? The only problem is, the first devices from most companies, except Valve, were kinda half-baked and unfinished. Take the Legion Go, for example. It was basically unplayable at launch, but now it's actually decent. Or the ROG Ally, which could only run Cyberpunk for like 30 minutes before dying. Eventually, they updated the drivers and settings and it got a bit better. About an hour, but there were still plenty of issues. So to fix these problems, the company released the ROG Ally X, with improved ergonomics, better performance, and a bunch of other upgrades that completely changed the experience. That's what I want to talk about today. Hope you enjoy. The first thing you notice is the updated design. Asus ditched the white body for a stylish black one, which gives the console a more professional look, but only from a few meters away. Up close, you can tell it's just cheap plastic, and any premium feel compared to the white version disappears immediately. But at least now the black bezels around the screen, which are still there, don't stand out as much and blend into the background. Another significant change. The handles are deeper now, making it more comfortable to hold, especially since the device is heavier, weighing almost 700 grams, like a brick, similar to the Steam Deck. But that's because of the battery that's twice as big, which is super important for a portable device, so we can forgive that. Plus, the side edges are more rounded so they don't dig into your palms. Otherwise, the ergonomics haven't changed much. The sticks are like an Xbox controller. Personally, I don't find this layout super comfortable, but I'm used to the Steam Deck layout, so it's really individual and depends on your hand size. The sticks themselves are taller now and more like regular gamepad sticks, with more resistance, which I think makes aiming easier. But what's not comfortable are the back paddles. First, there are still only 2 of them, like in the first version, even though proper consoles have 4. And they've actually gotten smaller and are positioned far from the grip handles, so you literally have to stretch to press them. The official reason is to prevent accidental clicks, but it definitely doesn't make things more convenient. On the front, we still have a 7-inch IPS display with full HD resolution and a 120Hz refresh rate. The Steam Deck, which is cheaper, already has OLED, though only with HD resolution. Because of this, you can play outside, even in sunny weather, but you won't really want to. One definite plus about this screen is that it's horizontal. Different Chinese portables, and others too, often cram in vertical screens and then just change their orientation. This doesn't cause problems during normal use, but with older games and some newer ones, it leads to either games not launching at all or launching in windowed mode with weird resolution issues and other problems. Thanks to AMD FreeSync premium technology, the device eliminates screen tearing and minimizes lag, making gameplay super smooth. And it's like that with everything. You can clearly see they tried to fix previous mistakes, but nobody's perfect. Some things got better, some things got messed up. For example, they fixed the memory card burning issue. If you don't remember, on the first ROG Ally, flash drives would fry with impressive regularity. Some people blamed Windows. When I installed Dual Boot on my Steam Deck, a couple of my flash drives also went to digital heaven even though they were brand new. Others blamed the poorly designed cooling system that made the flash drives overheat. Now, they've not only moved the card reader away from the cooling system, but also significantly redesigned the cooling itself. First, they installed new fans that are noticeably quieter. Second, they added more ventilation holes so the device can dissipate heat better. And in reality, even during hour-long gaming sessions, which are now possible thanks to the bigger battery, the ROG Ally X doesn't overheat or throttle. Speaking of the battery, it's 80 watt-hours here, which is twice as big as not only the first model, but also the Steam Deck OLED. But the higher resolution and frame rate kinda balance that out. It lets you play demanding games for about 3 hours, compared to just 1 hour on the regular version, which is fantastic. For casual or older games, you can play for up to 6 hours, but since you can't lower the processor power consumption below 10 watts, that's the maximum. Meanwhile, on the Steam Deck, you can set it to even 4 watts for the weakest games and reach up to 12 hours of battery life. That's in ideal conditions, of course, but 8 hours is definitely achievable. Still, 6 hours on the ROG Ally X isn't bad at all. As for tech specs, under the hood, the ROG Ally X has a powerful AMD Ryzen Z1 Extreme processor with 8 cores and clock speeds up to 5.1 GHz. It impressed me in the Legion Go too, which I reviewed recently on my channel. It's a pretty powerful processor capable of running all modern games. The difference from the regular version is in the higher number of graphics cores, which provides better performance. But the main difference is the increased amount of RAM. The thing is, in these devices, memory is split between RAM and video memory. In the regular ROG Ally, there's only 16 gigs, which during gameplay turns into 8 gigs of RAM and 8 gigs of video memory. In the new version, there's 24 gigabytes, so those 8 gigs can go to the graphics card, and you still have 16 gigabytes of RAM left for the game. While this doesn't significantly affect FPS, it has a huge impact on frame stability. Plus, there's a full terabyte storage drive so you can fit all your games. I wanted to mention external graphics cards separately. In the promo materials for the first portable, Asus heavily promoted their XG Mobile, which has a proprietary connector that both looks awful and isn't really useful for most people. But in theory, with such a card, you could replace a desktop PC, you could play AAA games on medium or even high settings with acceptable frame rates when connected to a monitor, and then continue playing the same games on the portable without the external GPU by lowering the settings. Sounds cool, but these XG mobiles cost ridiculously expensive compared to alternatives. That's why in the second model, Asus abandoned their proprietary connector and simply added a second USB-C port so you can connect any external cards. You can even connect desktop cards through a special riser, but here's the catch. Cards from third-party manufacturers still work poorly, or let's say unpredictably. Sometimes the system won't switch from integrated to external graphics, sometimes the opposite happens. You have to manually install drivers, constantly restart the portable. It's a real headache. And with the device costing €900, though cheaper with discounts, and most people not wanting to deal with all that hassle, this mode becomes pretty useless. But in theory, if you get everything working, you could play all games on high settings, and even with ray tracing without needing to buy a PC. For those who need it, most people buy portables specifically for portable gaming though, so let's see how it runs games. Let's start with Cyberpunk, since everyone has accepted it as the new standard, like GTA 5 used to be. With Steam Deck settings, it set everything automatically and even enabled FSR. We see 40 to 45 frames in the default benchmark, and it dropped to 33 frames at minimum. Interestingly, the base version, which is actually cheaper, was only 1 to 2 frames behind. Strange. There's a slightly more noticeable result in A Plague Tale: Requiem, where the higher model beat the lower one by about 5 frames, plus it didn't drop below 30 FPS, unlike the regular ROG Ally. But let's continue. The next game is Forza Horizon 5, which runs perfectly on both portables thanks to good optimization. 90 frames on the X version, and almost 90 on the base model. The settings are equally low with FSR enabled, which turned on automatically. The difference is most noticeable in new games like Black Myth: Wukong, where the difference is around 10 frames with FSR enabled. But what's also interesting is the battery life. Going back to Cyberpunk, the base version lasted less than 1 hour, 56 minutes to be exact, which isn't enough for some people to complete even one mission. Meanwhile, the new ROG worked for exactly 2 hours, so it lasted as much longer as the battery increase. The values are similar in other games, though a lot depends on the settings. Forza Horizon 5 with performance power consumption lasted 2.5 hours. RDR2 in turbo mode lasted 1 hour and 45 minutes. You could increase this by reducing power consumption along with frame rate, or lower the resolution like on the Steam Deck, but then the image quality really suffers. And some indie game like Hades lasted 4 hours in quiet mode, still not at the Steam Deck's level of battery life. But the deck can't handle Wukong either. Of course, with minimum settings and FSR you can achieve a decent frame rate in normal scenes, but in battles the frames inevitably start to drop, which is noticeable even on video. And I'll remind you that frame drops aren't as noticeable to an observer as they are when you're playing yourself and can feel the responsiveness issues on the sticks. Though with Frame Generator, you can still complete the game. To sum it up, as I said at the beginning, the ROG Ally X isn't so much a new console as it is a significant fix for the first version's mistakes, with improved ergonomics, increased performance, and extended battery life. I can't say it's a Steam Deck killer. In terms of ergonomics, the deck is unmatched. For operating systems too, so far. Only at the end of this month is the Legion Go S coming out with SteamOS. We'll check that out too, so subscribe if you haven't already. While SteamOS has its drawbacks, for example, not all online games work due to anti-cheat, it does have plugins, and FrameGen 2 recently came out, which perfectly configures frame generation in any game so you can play without problems or hassle. You just select the game, press install, and boom, increased frame rate. Though the Steam Deck is getting old now, about 2 or 3 years, which is a long time for mobile hardware, which is why some demanding new releases like Wukong don't play very well on it. And that's exactly why I'm waiting for the Legion Go S. The ROG Ally X is a powerful portable capable of running all games, but only for those who need Windows. Plus, the portable itself isn't as big as its competitor, the Legion Go. It's well built, with improved software compared to the beginning. It has enough battery life so you don't have to sit next to an outlet. As for downsides, I guess you could count the lack of an OLED screen, for almost €900, though cheaper with discounts. If you evaluate it in a vacuum, everything is great, but as I said, the Legion Go S is coming soon, with SteamOS and a more modern processor, though about 10% less powerful, but it will officially cost $500, like the Steam Deck, which is already setting it up for success. But you can't call the ROG Ally X bad either. Overpriced, yes, but it runs games without issues, and really, what else do you need from it?